Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. This is a fun night for me. It's so much fun. First, I will take care of a couple little logistical things. The restroom is in the hallway. It's the only open door in the hallway. So if anyone needs the restroom, that's where it is.
Is the door shut?
No, the door will shut, I promise. But just fair warning, if that door's shut, you probably don't want to go in, okay? So, just a thought. So, the music that you heard as you came in this evening is by my dear friend Rhonda Mackert. She is a friend of mine from Washington, Gig Harbor, Washington, and that was her music that you heard as you came in. Beautiful music. She's also sent me my flowers, which is so sweet. She and her husband and the girls, who are two Keishowns. So, I'm going to open with a piece that I always play. You've probably all heard it before, but it's a worship piece. And I did not record it, mostly because my husband didn't want me to pay the ridiculous royalties that I would have had to have paid. So, anyway, I recorded it, but I did not use it on the CD. So, I do want to say one thing before we start. Normally, I would have all this music memorized. I had a surprise trip to West Virginia that took about a week out of my schedule. I'm sorry. And so I don't have it all memorized, and my two options were to play for music or cancel the concert. So I decided, you know what, I'll play for music. It will not make the world end. Will it, Joseph? It won't make the world end.
No, we'll still be here.
Okay, good. Good. Okay. So, but I'm going to start with a medley of worship pieces that I call Adoration.
Yay.
is compliments of Mr. Joel Asher.
Yeah,
He was
Joel.
here, he came this afternoon and tuned my piano for me. He set the voicing on my piano. I absolutely adore my piano. We've been up to the Steinway store several times since I bought it, and Dan has done everything in his power to talk me into a Steinway. Not happening. I love my Boston. I'm not giving it up. Love my Boston. So, I'll share just a little bit with you. I was not a composer. Did not compose, period. Not. And we started attending home concerts in the home of Philip Wesley in Spring Hill. My first concert was Philip Wesley and Joseph. And I was so inspired by what they did, and Buddy kept saying, "You can do this," and I kept saying, "No." I play. They write, I play. And so as we kept attending the concerts, Buddy kept saying, "You can do this, you can do this." And this went on from like December until the following October. And finally I said, "You know what? I'm going to shut the man's mouth. That's what I'm going to do." So I went to Joseph, who teaches, and this is Joseph. He is my music mentor. This is the man that inspires me. Every time I go over there and do a lesson, I come home and write all kinds of music. And I went over to Joseph and I said, "Joseph, I'm going to play for you and work with you a little bit, and I want you to tell me if you think I've got this in me and you can pull it out somehow, you let me know. And if there's nothing there, you just tell me, and then I'll shut my husband's mouth." And so I went over, and Joseph gave me this little chord progression. I don't even know now what it was. I don't know. He said, "Go home and work with it, and we'll talk in a few weeks." And I said, "Okay." And I came home, and I think I wrote 5 songs in 1 week. And so I started out to shut Buddy's mouth and ended up proving that I hate when that happens. But he was right. And so that was at the end of October last year, right? And so at the end of April, I recorded my first CD. Mm-hmm. And so most of you have my CD, some of you do not. And it was released in June. Yes, in June. Called Like a Song. And the first piece on the CD is a piece that I wrote for Buddy. And it's about the everydayness of a family. I don't know, is that Laura's phone somewhere, maybe?
She's sending her away.
Oh, okay.
I think it's
I don't know.
Laura.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Can I have some? The bottled water is in the back fridge, sorry. Thank you. But this is a song that I wrote for Buddy. It's about, like I said, the everydayness of being a family. We have 3 teenagers in our house. And any of you who have ever had 3 teenagers in your house, number 1, you're as crazy as we are. And number 2, you understand how we all got this way. So, and so we have our ups and downs and our ins and outs and all of that. But at the end of it all, well, usually anyway, at the end of it all comes back to the easy flow just between the 2 of us. And so this is called Every Day With You.
Who else wants some water?
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks. What's the name of that one again?
I'm sorry?
What's the name of that one?
It's called Every Day With You.
Oh, I'm on.
That's happy. I love the theme.
Every day with you.
Yeah.
But I don't like the song.
No, she doesn't like the song. She doesn't like anything that repeats.
I don't like repetitive.
So she doesn't like the song. So what can I say?
Well, that's every day and he repeats
Yeah,
itself.
that's kind of what I thought, Donna.
Every day
Thank
with you
you.
is the same.
I said, every day you do repeat yourself when
A
you're raising
routine.
children.
That's right, the routine. That's
Right.
exactly right.
Uh-huh.
That's right. This next piece is a piece that actually was a challenge from Joseph. Thank you, Joseph. Every piece that I wrote was in a major key. And so Joseph said he didn't think I could write a piece in a minor key. And so, I don't know, did you just think I was too happy or what? I don't know. He said he didn't think that I could do that. So, when different composers write, when they write their songs, different people do it in a different order. Some people, like Joseph, you write your songs, and most of them don't have names when you write them, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then he plays them through and listens to them, and he gets a name for them. Almost all of my pieces, either before I wrote them or at the very beginning of writing them, I know what they're going to be called. I don't know why. It's just weird. But I always do things backwards, you know? But this piece was not like that. I wrote it, as I said, as a challenge, and so it didn't have a name. And it wasn't until January we were in Lake Tahoe, and we were on the 18th floor of this hotel, and windows that looked out on the lake. It was absolutely beautiful. And I got up, the first morning we were there, I was still on Central Time, they were on Pacific. So I got up very early, and the sun was just beginning to come up. And I watched the lake, and there were these little squalls of snow out on the lake, and the clouds and the sun, and I watched the play of the light and the shadow on the surface of the lake, and I thought, that's it, that's my song right there. It's called Just Before Dawn. So this is called Just Before Dawn, and strangely enough, my friend Sherry, when she got my CD and listened to this, she called me and she was sobbing. And I said, Sherry, what is, I thought something terrible had happened. And she said, I'm listening to this piece and I can't stop crying. And I said, I'm so sorry. See what you did? She said it reminded her of what Jesus must have felt in the pre-dawn hours before his crucifixion. And that was very different. Anyway. This is called Just Before Dawn. you. This is the man who's responsible for me having the, well, other than the man who wrote the check.
He's responsible.
This is the man who sold him the piano. This is Dan Grass and his wife. Dan is from the Steinway Gallery in Nashville. And so, didn't Joel make my piano sound awesome?
Sounds great.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry we're late.
Oh, that's
We've
okay.
been driving fast. We got in traffic and
I know that feeling well. I do. It's terrible. So,
This has a wonderful possibility for leading into a dramatic movie. As a credit scene.
that is so
Such a
funny.
good move.
Because Laura said the same thing. She said, Mom, that sounds like something out of The Notebook. Okay. Thanks, Laura. The next song is the title song to the CD. It's called Like a Song, obviously. And I was actually sitting in my at my desk, and Buddy was watching football or something. I don't know what he was watching. And this came to me, and it was like immediately I had the name. I knew it was called Like a Song. I knew it was going to be the title title song to the CD, and that was it. And I went into my, at the time, all I had was my little digital piano. Thank you, Dan. All I had was my little digital piano, and I went in. It worked. Most of the CD was composed at the digital piano, but I went in and I sat down, and that night, it was very late at night, and that night, the next morning, I wrote this piece. And I was sitting there, and I got, and I thought, okay, and Like a Song. And it's very funny because I named it Like a Song, and every time I play it, somebody thinks they recognize it. It's hilarious. I played it at, I think it was Miller Piano, when I was testing, I was sorry. When I was testing pianos, and the sales lady there came out and she said, "Oh, I know that song. It's da 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 da." And I went, "No, it's really not." And then I played it at the hospital one day, and a lady came in and she said, "That was mine and my husband's favorite song. We danced to it for years." So. Even the plumber the other day was here. I played the song and he goes, "I know that song." And I went, so it really is like every other song, I guess.
that's a great title. Of
I
that
guess
song.
so. I mean, it just worked out, you know. But to me, as I wrote it, it was, my heart cries out to you, O Lord, like a song. And so, like a song.
The song has magical power.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. It transforms. Oh, I apologize for not having my music memorized. I went through all this, but I had an emergency trip and didn't get it all memorized. So.
Well,
Life goes on.
that's okay. We've heard the CD.
That's true. That's true. Uh-oh. I'll try to play it the same.
That's good. Yeah.
this next piece is, I lost my mind. I mean, I really never had one to lose, but the little bit that I had, I lost. And I let Laura have a sleepover with all of her dance sisters from her dance troupe. So I had like 11 little girls here from like 7 to 17. This was on New Year's night. And we didn't have the piano in here now yet, and so we had a big screen TV, and they're all in here. They're doing the Wii. They had this horrible noise that they called music, like blasting all over my house. I mean, the walls were shaking, and they were dancing in here, and literally, I mean, this is a pier and beam house, okay? So the whole house was doing this number, and so I thought, I am going to lose my mind. So I closed the kitchen door in there, went into my little digital piano, and I sat down, and in about, my mom was here about 15 minutes, I wrote this song. It's
How
called,
she had her mind, I have.
I had to do something to drown it out. It's called Sierra, which means a higher place, and it really was. Beam me up, Scotty. I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking. Get me out of here. So this is Sierra. Scotty didn't beam me up. I was stuck the rest of the night with those kids. So, yeah, except it put her in the hospital the next day. So, the next piece is an exercise in simplicity. Buddy is always saying that my pieces aren't simple enough. So he likes the very new age stuff, you know, where there's just... That's Buddy's thing, so... Anyway, he kept telling me that my stuff wasn't simple enough. I needed to write something more simple. I had too many notes and too many chords. So this was my exercise in simplicity, and it's not, but it's as simple as I get. So it's as good as you're going to get. Don't get it. Get it. Don't go there. But this I wrote very, very early one morning. I was out at my digital piano, had the back door open, and my roses were just beginning to bloom. And so I sat there with my cup of coffee and wrote this piece of music, and it's called Morning Meditation. Adoration. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's the one that put, no, that's not the one that put Joe to sleep.
It's not the one?
No, it was Be Still. I'll play that one in a minute. The guy that engineered my CD, he is phenomenal. You guys are welcome to turn on lights or whatever you want to do back there, that's fine. But he is phenomenal, and recording in his house is just awesome. Because you've recorded there, right, Joseph?
Mm-hmm.
At Joe's? Yeah. It is awesome. The piano is in his living room. And so you go in and he goes, yeah, there's stuff in the fridge if you want it, just go help yourself. And, you just sit down, and he's kind of behind you. And so you just kind of feel like you're in your own living room playing piano. So you don't get, you're not, I wasn't nervous. Were you when you recorded? I mean, I wasn't. It was just easy, and I scheduled 3 days in the recording studio and ended up sitting down in one session in 8 hours and recording 17 songs. It just happened that way because it was just like sitting here. I mean, it was so easy. But Joe was sitting behind me, and one of the pieces I played, I finished, and no one said anything, and I thought, okay, should I let up on the pedal? Is he done? And I turned around, and he's like, out.
Are you serious?
Yeah. But he was like, Joe? oh, okay. Oops. I did him in.
Maybe he was telling you something.
Maybe so. I hope I didn't bore him to death.
I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking, geez, has a great effect. It's a lullaby.
Exactly. Well, I call that one a lullaby to me,
Yeah.
so I guess it was.
I suppose we should not listen to your CD and drive.
Yeah, do not listen. No, not a good idea. Do not do that. No. So, this next piece is called Breakfast at the Lighthouse. Buddy and I have found a new fetish. It's called lighthouses. We love them. And so we were driving up the coast of California, Southern California, and we had been to a couple of lighthouses on the way, and saw this little hotel. I think we had reservations somewhere else, I don't know. We saw this little hotel down, like, right on the beach, literally. It has a little private beach. And there's a lighthouse on top of the hotel. And it's right at the southern tip of San Francisco Bay. And so we pulled in there, and sure enough, they had rooms. And you just open your sliding glass doors and listen to the waves roll in all night long. It is so awesome. And we got up the next morning and went down to the restaurant to have breakfast, and they had windows, like floor to ceiling. And we sat there, and there was a storm out at sea, and so these waves were coming in and like crashing, like right there. And some of them would roll in, and then one would come in and crash, and it almost gave like a vertigo effect because you were right there, And so as we left, I kind of glanced back at the windows, and I thought, gosh, I wonder if I'll ever have the opportunity to see this again. And you'll kind of hear that little wistfulness at the end. And strangely enough, we did go back a year later and stay at the hotel, but the restaurant's closed. So I'm so thankful that I had that opportunity to see that. And so I wrote this piece, and it's called Breakfast at the Lighthouse. every time I sing in public, every time I sing in public, I forget the words. Every time. And I always get up and start to sing, and I have no clue what the first word is until I take a big, deep breath, and somehow that first word comes, and then I'm fine after that. And that kind of happened there. I was like, okay, what am I doing here? But once I got started, I was okay. You have to laugh. Joseph makes fun of me because I'm lazy. I'm a really lazy musician. And when I write music, it looks like anybody in here who reads music, it looks like that. And Joseph tells me that the good thing about it is that nobody can steal my stuff because nobody else can read it. If I was a really good kid, I would sit down and I can read it, that's all that matters. Someday I'll give it to somebody else who will sit down, and do all that tedious stuff, but that is not my cup of tea. This next piece I wrote for Laura. And it's actually the first melody that I got. On that same trip in California, we're on vacation, we're coming out of San Francisco back to this little hotel with the lighthouse, and I said, buddy, we have to find a music store, and he's going, okay. And I said, no, we have to find a music store right now. There's a melody in my head, I need to write it down. He said, you know we're on vacation, right? I know that, but there's a melody and I have to write it down right now. So we went and we found this book that I have scribbled from beginning to end, and I wrote down the melody to this piece, and it was originally a vocal piece, and it had words, but I turned it, and it was in 4/4, and I turned it into a waltz. I put it in 3/4, and wrote the rest of it, and this is called Laura's Dance.
Someday she's going to choreograph it.
Yeah, it's the one that my daughter is a dancer. She lives to dance, but she won't dance to this piece. Fine. She's 17, that's what I hear from her all the time. Fine.
you are in a white thing, written over it.
Yeah,
Just
this might
serious
happen, might
things
happen.
that is.
Kathy,
Maybe someday.
have you
You have
used,
talked her into it, yeah.
question.
Mhm.
Have you used a recorder as far as capturing some of your melodies, or do you do better as far as kind of writing it down in notation? How's the best way for you to be able to catch your melodies? In that case, you went to the music store and you went ahead and you kind of
Right, I
Yeah.
wrote down the melody. If I don't write it down, I don't remember it.
So are you
Yeah.
able to record a melody, or like be able to have it in your mind to be able to kind of put on a recorder, or are you able to?
I do. I work with a little recorder, and I'll sit down here at the piano and doodle around, and I record the melody, and then I sit down and I write it, because then I'm able to go ahead and put the rest with it. Excuse me, but yeah, my 55-year-old brain would never, in a million years. I have 5 kids, Corey. I can't even remember my own name most days.
I don't either.
Yeah, she doesn't know my name either. She calls me everything. She calls me Stephen Sid. I'm the only girl. Hello.
Bless your heart.
Of course, I call my kids by the dog's names. I tell them I don't care what I call you. When I look at you, you answer me. You know your name? I don't have to know it.
That's exactly what I tell them.
I knew it long enough to put it on the birth certificate. That's all that matters. So, speaking of kids, I started writing this one, and when I started writing, I mean, it's so totally out of character for me that I didn't even have a clue how to put it on paper, because I write melodies. When I was in college, I couldn't decide for 2 years whether to be a voice major or a piano major. And so my junior year, they finally told me that I had to declare. You either have to declare or you're going to be here for a very long time. So I finally declared piano as my major, and my piano professor told me that I didn't really make a decision. I just decided to sing on the piano. So, so when I write music, I write melodies. That's what I write. And this one doesn't have a melody, or it does. It has a couple little melodies, but the good part about this is it always rolls my children out of bed. When I can't get them up, I sit down at the piano and I play this. And I tell you what, 6 feet hit the floor immediately.
What happens to Buddy?
He's already gone. But this one is actually written, I love Yosemite Park. It's one of my very favorite. Yosemite Park and Lake Tahoe. Those are my two, I want to live and die in those places. Absolutely beautiful. And I'm a big water freak. I love, water inspires most of my stuff. I love water, any kind, from little trickling streams to the ocean. And in Yosemite, I love waterfalls. And in Yosemite, every place you go, there is a little waterfall. And there's this little road that goes all the way through the park, and it winds up and comes back down and goes back over to the other mountain. But every time you make a turn, there's a waterfall. And you go over a bridge, and there might be a little tiny trickling waterfall, like a... Or there might be a big thundering waterfall. You just never know. When you go around the next turn, you don't know which kind you're going to see. And so this piece was written about a trip through Yosemite. Joseph, when I played it the first time, he said, "Oh, that sounds like some kind of something." and I have to admit, Joseph, I hated this piece. I hated it. The only reason I put it on the CD is because Buddy and the kids like it. But then once I put it on the CD, I like it. What can we say? But this is called Falling Waters. And Joel and Corey come up and do some. And then for those of you who want to stay, you don't have to, but if you want to stay, I thought I might preview a few of my Christmas
Well, you want to
pieces
hear the first one
that's,
anyway.
that's coming up. So,
Well, we can't stay long because we have to babysit.
yeah, I know.
We have a curfew.
Some of us have a curfew, don't we?
Turn into a pumpkin.
Yeah, really, that's the truth. I'm going to play one now. It's called The Hope of Joy. My district superintendent, Joy Weathersby, you've talked, I don't know if you've met her, but you have talked with Joy. Precious, precious, precious woman. Never knew anyone who was more aptly named than Joy Weathersby, because she just exudes joy. She's just a precious woman. And she recently went through a really difficult time and has subsequently decided not to pursue ministry anymore. And it was a really difficult thing for me to have to come to terms with that. As I was processing all of that, Joy is she was not only my supervisor, she was a friend and still is a friend. And as I was processing all of the emotions of that, I kind of did it on the keyboard. And so this is called The Hope of Joy. accompany me? Okay, that's nice.
She
All
has
right.
heard that, hasn't she? She has heard that, hasn't she?
Who,
You
Joy?
played that for her.
Yeah, yeah, I sent it to her when I first wrote it and then after I recorded it, so. This last one that I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna do the one that put Joe to sleep. It's late at night, we might all go to sleep. But the last one that I'm gonna do, of the ones that are on the CD, it's called Last Glance. And on the back of the CD, there's a picture. In January, when we were at Lake Tahoe, we normally have flown into like Sacramento or San Francisco or something and gone from the west. Well, this time we flew into Reno and went from the east up over the mountains. And so as we were leaving Lake Tahoe, we were driving up over Diamond Peak and Mount Rose. And Diamond Peak, they're what, 12,000 feet? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 12,000 feet. And so we were up there, and of course there was snow everywhere up there. And we pulled off the road to look back. And as we looked back, there was that gorgeous sapphire lake nestled in the mountains. And we were looking through the ponderosa pines and the snow. And it was so beautiful. And I did not want to come back to Tennessee. And, I just wanted to turn around and go back to Tahoe. And so this was written, this was kind of a memory of that last glance of the lake. And it's called Last Glance.
I like it. I don't know which one's my favorite. The first one's not mine.
She doesn't like the first one, okay? Was there any question? Okay, you guys decide who's going first? Eeny, meeny, miny.
You hold on a minute.
All righty.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just. This is my most recent composition, and it is called "Glimpses of Heaven." Sorry about the mistakes.
Hit it. Yeah, just add them to mine. We'll put them all in a basket.
We wouldn't have known them anyway, so
That's
don't worry.
right.
My name is Corey. I grew up about 3 hours north of Syracuse, up in New York, and I've been here in Tennessee for 13 years, and love Tennessee. I love it because I still get my seasons like back home in New York. Don't get as much snow as I like, but still get enough. Once in a while to say that it does feel like winter time and that it is Christmas time. And started piano when I was 7 years old, and when I first started I had a difficult time reading music. And so my teacher, she taught me to learn via Suzuki, as far as the Japanese method, learning to play by ear. So as I got a little older during my elementary years, I was able to start to read music. And but as far as learning to be able to play by ear, I believe that over the years it really helped me to be able to learn to be able to compose music and to be able to hear melodies. And it's been interesting a lot of times. I know, Cathy, in the beginning you were talking about as far as how you learn to be able to compose and that. And I know that for myself, and maybe it's how Joseph, how you compose, is that when you sit down, it's like you might not have any idea of what you're writing for, or who you're going to be writing for, and until it's after you're done, and it's like, gosh, it's like, what am I going to call this? And it's like, oh man. But over the years, as far as knowing life, and as a musician, I've had a lot of people that have been a big influence, in me, and sometimes, I think in our own lives, things just happen. They just come out of the blue. Either we meet people or circumstances, we just can't explain it. I had a lady that I met here in Tennessee probably about a couple years ago. She was sharing her story with me, and I was sharing my story with her, and as far as with the music, and hadn't done anything with the music in about 20 years. And she told me, she said, well, just don't forget why you came here to begin with. And I never met that lady, never seen her from that point on. And so it was just, she just came out of the blue. And this song right here that I get ready to play for you actually came out of the blue. One afternoon I was just out walking. It was one of my favorite things I love to do, on the Greenway, and over there by Percy Priest. And I got home and I just sat down and started playing. It's like, wow, it's like, where'd that come from? And I think the hardest point, and I recorded it, but then to be able to go right back from the beginning is like, all right, it's like, now where do I start? And so this is called Out of the Blue, and so I hope you enjoy it. It's not too often I get a chance to be able to play a grand piano, so this is quite a treat. So.
Enjoy.
Awesome.
My turn?
Your turn.
Okay.
You're up, Joseph.
Okay, now that I've had a glass of wine.
That's okay, you can always play that.
I'll make mistakes, but I won't care.
There you go, that's right. I love it.
Well, Cathy and I play a bit different. She's played a lot in church, right?
Yeah.
What, 30 years?
Yeah, about 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I grew up playing in bars.
Hey, Joseph, sometimes it's almost the same thing.
Not that much different. This much.
Minor intervention.
You know the difference is in a bar, you usually don't get criticized.
That's
Amen.
Well, I got to play one for your mom that my dad taught me when I was 12, so that I could play in his honky-tonk band. And he would teach me these songs one note at a time on my saxophone. And so I started playing in this honky-tonk bar every Friday and Saturday night, playing saxophone in his band. And there was a piano player in the band. His name was David. And he taught me a lot at age 12, 13. He was teaching me the honky-tonk playing, and that's where I learned the seventh chords.
There you go.
The blues licks and
Yeah.
the stuff like that. And he mostly played with one hand, because he needed the other hand to drink his beer.
Oh,
Oh, he didn't teach you that trick, did he?
So, okay, so this is one that my dad taught me back then. This is for Mom.
Virginia.
I love listening to Joseph play because you never hear it the same way twice. It's awesome.
That's because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go.
Don't tell him that.
Never can remember it, so you just make it up.
Too funny.
Oh, that's
Too
sweet.
funny.
Thank you.
I
It didn't
love
sound
it.
like a honky-tonk piano, though.
Oh, man. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely
you.
beautiful.
Hey, y'all. I'm sorry we have to leave, but we've been told.
You've been tough?
We've been told to get home.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, they have a curfew.
I thought your car was towed.
It fits there.
To me, I love it.
She loves it. I don't. It's not my favorite.